Hi guys, welcome to another video. This time I'm going to answer your questions. Recently we've hit 5,000 subscribers here on this channel and I'm kind of blown away since it was just 3,600 subscribers a little while before. And yeah, I guess it was the Eurorack DIY video that you guys really liked, and I'm glad that you enjoy what I do. So thank you for all your support, I really appreciate it. I thought to mark the milestone, I'd do a Q&A video and you guys asked me some questions which I will answer in this video. I've got my questions here on my iPad, so if I look down a bit, that's what I'm looking at, the questions. Old Uncle Mick asks, how are your approaches to music, photography and painting similar or different? That is a really interesting question. And I've thought about it for quite a while now, since you asked the question, and I realized that my photography and my music pretty much always depends a bit on serendipity. I spend a lot of time doing street photography, and that very much depends on serendipity, waiting for something to happen on the street for other people to do interesting things, basically. This can be a curse and it can annoy me a lot, and especially if I'm in a neighborhood or in a city that doesn't deliver, like San Sebastián, where I used to live before, did not deliver in any way, and it used to frustrate me a lot. And then I switched to landscape a bit more because there it was not so dependent on serendipity and things just working out magically. There I could plan it more, and with my music I do rely on serendipity quite a bit. I like doing things with randomization. Sometimes I will do things like record an instrument and then extract the harmonies from it in Ableton and then write around that, and often weird things happen that I had not planned. Or I will use a tape loop and it will mangle things in such a weird way because the tape thing is broken or whatever. This one time I used a micro cassette recorder that was so wobbly that the original melody was really not recognizable at all, and what came out of it was really cool and really creepy. And I like when that sort of thing happens in my music. I'm kind of always looking for those sorts of moments. In my painting, I'm much more of a control freak, I guess. I do use watercolors a lot, so that restricts it to some extent. But I try to know a bit of what I'm doing, so I can normally control it to some extent. And so I think lately with the painting, for example, and with the landscape photography, it has moved more towards a bit of a more planned approach. Whereas with music, I still try to stay in the realm of the unexpected a lot. Interesting question. Thank you for that. Mark Haywood 9764 says, congratulations. Thank you. New sub here too. Can I ask how you ended up in San Sebastián, please? Feel free to ignore if you prefer not to do personal questions. It is indeed a personal question, but I think I've answered this on my blog in different posts, I guess. The reason why I ended up in San Sebastián is because my husband has a job there. He's an academic, he's a research professor, and in academia you can't really choose where you end up, basically. There aren't too many jobs going around, so you basically take a job wherever you get one. And my husband ended up in San Sebastián randomly, basically. And that's how I ended up there too. I never actually planned on going there. San Sebastián is a bit too touristy for my liking. It's a bit posh too and very expensive. It's not really a place where I would choose to live. I lived in Berlin before and that was a big change for me. It was very difficult for me to transition my photography to there, basically. And I've been struggling with it quite a bit. Now we actually don't live in San Sebastián anymore. We just moved to a smaller town that is still in the same area but not San Sebastián itself, and that also means it's not quite as expensive. So that's basically how I ended up here, because of my husband. Random, there isn't much else to it. It wasn't by choice, but well, that's just how it is with academic jobs. You can't really choose where you end up. The next one is Love Wester. With so many interests, I'm into music and photography too. How do you find the time and energy to get things done? And how do you prioritize? Well, the time and energy, that's pretty much the $1,000,000 question, isn't it? A lot of us do creative things, and having the energy to do it when everything else is overwhelming can be a bit difficult. I know that feeling. But for me, it's not so much of a problem because this is what I do full time. I'm a photographer, even though right now I'm not taking many pictures. But normally that's what I do when I have my darkroom in place and when I have my workflow sorted out. Right now, my workflow is still a bit up in the air in this new place, so I'm not taking that many pictures, but it will come eventually. I usually go through phases. Like, I will have a year when I'm really into photography, a year when I'm really into painting, another year where I make a lot of music. And it kind of fluctuates, and sometimes I might do 1 or 2 things at the same time. Sometimes I make a lot of videos, sometimes I don't. It really depends on my interests in that moment and my obsessions, because my workflow is basically getting obsessed with stuff, and then for a few months I will do only that. And when my interest wanes, I will usually do something else from the many interests that I have. I go round and round in circles. I don't normally prioritize. Sometimes I have something that is more urgent. Maybe I have a deadline or something like that for a festival that I want to send a print to or a picture to. Then I will focus on that for a while, or I have a goal as to how many tracks I want to write, and sometimes I'm working on an album for a few months and I will focus only on that and get really obsessed with it. Or I decide I want to build a whole lot of stuff and then I spend a couple months soldering. So it's not a matter of priority as such, it's just what I feel like at the moment. And then I normally do 2 or 3 things at the same time. Usually it's 2, but with the YouTube it's now always 3 because I keep filming stuff too. Even though I don't always film these talking head type videos, I often have the camera running when I do stuff. Like when I go out to take pictures, I always have the camera running, or when I build stuff I also have the camera running. And then I might make it into videos later when I feel like making a lot of videos and when I have the mind space to do it. Jens Jensen 5462 says, I'm a new subscriber. The first of your videos I saw was about your Sputnik stereo camera, how you make anaglyph pictures. I then had that video on my mind, listening to your background music in other videos. How can I support you on Bandcamp? I was looking for a way of buying your album. I don't see any price quote, nor any click here to buy button. Well, Bandcamp looks different on mobile than it does on the web. On the web, it's just a text link where you have to say buy digital album here or something like that. On mobile, you see a big buy button, so it should be straightforward there. Thank you for wanting to support me. I appreciate it. Dmitry Kupradianov says, congrats, at this pace you will have to do the 10k Q&A at the same time. Thanks for pointing it out. It reminded me that I should actually film this thing, so thanks. He asks, any photo vids coming up? I do have some stuff filmed with the GoPro, and I've taken the pictures, and the only thing that I have to do is to develop the pictures, and that I don't really want to do right now because my Jobo is not set up properly and my darkroom is not set up properly. And until I have that set up, I don't really want to get into the developing things because it will just waste so much time if I don't use the Jobo. I normally develop like 5 rolls at once, and that makes it sort of time efficient. Otherwise I waste tons of time with development. I tend to use those photography videos also to showcase new music. It gives me the opportunity to try out how the tracks work and how they work with images, and I really like doing that. And the videos, I genuinely enjoy making them too, so there will definitely be more of them coming in the future. And just right now, with my darkroom not being fully set up yet, it's a bit of a hassle to do it. I think I have 1 roll that I could post, so I might think about that. I have a few videos already in the pipeline that are more music related or have something to do with my studio, and that will take a few weeks, I guess, and then afterwards maybe I can make another photography video too. But yeah, they will definitely keep coming too. It's just the circumstances, I guess. The next question is actually pretty much the same one. it is in German. Sartek says, die herzlichsten Glückwünsche. Leider bin ich kürzlich über deinen Kanal gestoßen. Fotografie, Musik und Synthesizer, voll mein Ding. Hoffe, meine Frage kommt nicht zu spät. He says, hopefully my question doesn't come too late. No, obviously it didn't. He asks, do you still take pictures or have your interests changed recently? My interests never change too much. Photography always comes back. I was already taking pictures when I was in primary school, and I will take pictures until I drop, I guess. But sometimes I take breaks from it, or I don't take that many pictures because the circumstances don't add up in some way or other. And right now my studio is set up, but my darkroom isn't, and I mostly take pictures on film, and without the darkroom it is a bit annoying. I would accumulate lots of rolls and then I would have to develop them all, and I would get very frustrated, and then I wouldn't want to take pictures, and I've been there before and I don't want to go there again. So I've learned from my mistakes, and this time I'm not taking that many pictures when I'm taking a break, and I will come back to it when my darkroom is set up. But it won't change that I'm a photographer. I will always be a photographer, and I will always take pictures. It will always play a role. In a way, I'm still doing it because I take pictures for my YouTube channel, and filming and video is very similar to photography anyway. I'm using all my photography lenses on the videos, so it's kind of the same thing, just with moving images. It's still photography in a way. But yeah, more photography videos will be coming too. And also, thank you for the congratulations. James Pearson asks, when you're writing your music, how much theory are you using? Or are you mostly doing it by ear? Or a mixture? I know you said you learned the recorder, but not sure if you got deep into the theory. Personally, I've only skimmed some of the basics of theory recently, which has been quite enlightening and daunting. That's right, I learned the recorder when I was in primary school, and we had to do theory lessons, mandatory ones that I had to go to, and that, were pure and utter torture for me when I was that age. And I wasn't really particularly fond of learning the recorder either, so it was all around not very successful, I would say.
Played on his prologue like a child on a recorder. A sound, but not in government.
His speech was like a tangled chain, nothing impaired but all disorder.
But I also learned music theory in high school again, so some of it kind of stuck, and I definitely had some ear training when I was quite young, so I guess that definitely did something for me. And a lot of what I do with theory is sort of intuitive, but occasionally I also write variations in the key, and I do use theory sometimes. And I sometimes also cheat a bit by using the chord modes of the Launchpad Pro, and I got a bit more into using the theory a little bit more extensively thanks to the Launchpad Pro, because I was reading up on it, and I took, I think, a Skillshare class on music theory as well, and that was very interesting and helped quite a bit with writing variations. I try not to fall into the theory trap too much, because then it becomes sort of samey. Often I will just record a natural instrument and pick some harmonies out of it with Ableton, and that's not necessarily going to be in some sort of key. It sort of harmonizes, but not necessarily always, and it introduces some more variations that are less strict and by the book. Because if you do everything by the book, it tends to get a bit boring for me. I like also sometimes dissonance, so it's really just playing it by ear most of the time, and a little bit of theory if I get stuck. Theory helps though, especially if you have a problem with finishing tracks and you don't really know how to continue after you have your loop. Theory is definitely the way to go if you're stuck with that sort of thing. The next question is, Alex, what musical and sonic influences do you draw upon for your synth music compositions? I actually come out of the punk scene originally, like gothic and punk scene, and I started out with dark ambient many years ago. When I first got into it, I got really obsessed with making drones with my guitar, and that was what I did for quite a few years actually. I always had a problem with actually playing something that would be recognizable as music by regular people. The drone type stuff and guitar type, dark ambient things. I love this one. It's the Melancholics, and this plays up and down in my attic all the time now. Currently I'm writing a lot, and that's just the perfect thing for me to listen to while I'm writing, and I love it so much. Nowadays I make more straight up ambient because I started this project as a sort of background music for my YouTube channel, and that was mostly photography videos, and whenever I put some of my more darker tracks, the comments started to get very amusing, I guess. Of course, I left the Heinbach over there. I have some of Heinbach's tapes and his landfill totems. One of the new things that I recently got is this one that plays up and down here. It's Jogging House. That's much more light-hearted, and I like that sort of thing too. But I also like other stuff, like The Replacements, for example. My influences are more in the darker genres, like gothic and post-punk and that sort of thing, really. So here we have a classic. Incidentally, I'm wearing a Joy Division t-shirt. That's the kind of music that I really love. Post-punk, Batcave, punk, that sort of thing. It might seem a bit unintuitive that my background is basically punk music, but I think the DIY spirit is definitely very strong in the punk spirit, and that's where I got the just doing things and seeing how they pan out attitude. Yeah, I'm a punk girl. Might not seem that way anymore. I lost the haircut a while back, but yeah, the spirit is still the same, I guess. I love collecting Nick Cave. I try to collect all his records, which is quite an undertaking because he's done so much, and all of it is fantastic. That's a huge influence on me, although probably you won't really hear it unless you know his soundtrack work, I guess. I love his music and I'm a big fan. I've seen him live, and yeah, that was one of the best concerts I've seen too, so that was really good. But I also have a quite diverse music taste sometimes. I listen to a lot of electronica too, and IDM, glitch, all sorts of stuff really, industrial sometimes. I actually have another musical influence, the Einstürzende Neubauten. It really depends on the mood with me, even though my main influences come out of the punk and post-punk. Especially when I'm writing synthwave stuff, I obviously draw on all the 80s music that I like. I'm a big fan of Depeche Mode, for example. That is definitely an influence for me. And then I'm also quite inspired by soundtracks. I have the Blade Runner soundtrack running in my darkroom when I'm printing, so that probably worked its way into my mind quite a lot. So it sometimes comes out when I'm making music. I embrace the Blade Runner. Neil Martin is here. Congratulations, old sub here. I follow for your DIY music shenanigans more than for your photography. Your Eurorack video is popular, I see. Well done. Thank you. I'd love a walkthrough of your modules and how you use them. This would be a huge video in itself. I think it would be way too much for this video if I did it now. I'm definitely gonna answer your question with an entire video, so it might take a moment, but it will come. He also asks, how many subs do you need for your first plug? I guess you mean one of those subscriber awards. And those you start getting when you have 100,000 subscribers. That's the first one. And I'm still a bit off with that. I'm only about 5% there, so still way to go. But if the channel keeps growing the way it is right now, then it might come sooner than expected. Who knows? That would be really cool. But I can't really imagine it yet, to be honest. Even 5,000 took me by surprise, so... Luftgetrocknete Banane says, Herzlichen Glückwunsch, which means congratulations, thank you. What about sci-fi recommendations? What are you reading, watching at the moment? At the moment, I'm not reading much because I'm writing a bit more. But last I checked, I had on my nightstand William Gibson's Neuromancer. I read it already quite a while back, several times, but I thought I would reread it. got about halfway through and then I got distracted somehow. But yeah, that's what I'm reading at the moment, still, somehow. We were also reading The Peripheral out loud, but that's a bit of a difficult one, so I'm not sure whether we're gonna continue with that. As for watching, at the moment we're watching Silo. It's actually quite interesting. I can definitely recommend that one. It just ended on a hang cliffer. Hang cliffer? That's what we say in this house, a hang cliffer. It just ended on a cliffhanger and I want to see what happens next. So yeah, I don't like when they do that. It's good, I recommend it. Tom Kleeman asks, have you ever used psychedelic substances in your life? What do you think? And are you a religious person, or better said, spiritual? Sorry if it's too trivial, I'm just curious. Are you spiritual? That's not a trivial question. I am not a religious person, no. If you're wondering why, that's pretty easy. I come from a region that is profoundly atheist, so it just wasn't part of my upbringing. The only moment I'm spiritual is when I'm in the forest.
It smells of forest.
Nice.
I'm with all my friends. I'm with all my tree friends.
There I sometimes feel very connected to something bigger, the forest. I don't know how much of that is hardwired through evolution, I have no idea. And that kind of tells you where I'm from, basically. But it does feel very profound when I'm in the forest and like there's something important there. But I don't know, that's the most spiritual I get. Difficult question, especially to answer in public. KQ6up says, I'm getting back into music after a long break and would like to also share my tech knowledge and music. Maybe you can help me figure out what kind of videos I can make to help people with this technology. I think for you it would be worthwhile to look into channels about this sort of thing, music DIY channels, and see what's already out there. When you're thinking about making videos about something on YouTube, then it's always a good idea to just research what's already out there and see what's there already. There is, for example, Moritz Klein, there's Modular in a Week, there's Molten Modular, who builds a lot of DIY projects too. There are quite a few YouTubers who already do sort of electronic-y type things to do with music. If you want to see what the state of things is in that space, it would be a good idea to watch those kinds of videos first to see whether there's a need for the kind of videos that you're thinking of making. And I think everyone always looks for good resources with electronics skills in that area. If you're good at teaching, there is definitely a need. I think looking at Moritz Klein's videos would be very informative because that's the kind of thing that people really enjoy, and I found those videos really helpful. If there were more videos like this, it probably would help people out a lot. Well, I think that's that. Let me check whether I've answered all of these. Okay. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps out my channel, so I would appreciate it. You can also support my channel on Ko-fi or buy my music on Bandcamp if you want to support what I do. These videos have a tendency to get a bit expensive when I do the more DIY related stuff because I have to buy electronics parts and that sort of thing. So if you want to see more of that type of content, then the support goes a long way to making that happen. But of course the liking, the commenting, the subscribing is already more than enough. It's just there as an option if you want to support what I do. In the future there might be more videos like this one if you leave me more questions in the comment section. I guess when I have 10,000 subscribers I can make another video like this, and by the look of it that's gonna happen soon. Kind of surprising how fast that's going right now. There will of course be more DIY, electronics, music related stuff coming, and there will be more photography videos coming too, and also more stuff about my studio. I mean, look at this nice new background. It's really much more comfortable than my old studio, and I look forward to showing it to you, and that video will come soon. And well, I hope I see you soon for another video. Bye! I will have to check the sound now because it just started raining. Ooh. Yeah, shit, I can't record when it's raining up here. Oops.